again. There we go. All right, good morning. Welcome to Tuesday, June the 6th call. Yesterday, I spent some time talking about, sorry, I just gonna move some stuff around. Talking about the unconscious mind and also known as the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, and talked about Dr. Thurman Fleet's The Stick Man. And I just wanted to spend a bit more time with that today. I think it's so important. It's a great reminder. And I was reminded over the summit how important understanding, how our brain works, how our mind works, so that we can use it to our advantage. So yesterday we talked about how images come into our mind through our actually 5 senses. And that image will have a meaning to it, and the meaning will depend on, of course, what our values are, what our conditioning is, what our beliefs are, and then we'll define that or give it a meaning, and then we'll behave or have some sort of outcome from that. And so for things that are part of our experience, when that image or information is fed into our conscious mind instantaneously at light speed, our subconscious mind tells us several different things about the image. So it will let us know, of course, is the image something that's safe or is it a threat? And then it will tell us what to do with the image, again, based on our values, our beliefs, and our habits. And so once the brain says whether it's safe or not, then it's like this, the brain will say, okay, here's what you need to do with this, or what to think about this particular image. So when we want to have transformation, we want to, impart change. One of the things that we need to do is to several things, I guess, is to, of course, change the thoughts around the image. So create new neural pathways. We might need to look at our values and our belief systems and our habits to see if that's moving us towards the goal or the transformation we want, or is it keeping us where we are? And really, it comes down to how we think about things. And so the biggest challenge, I think, is to letting go of our past memories that are influencing our present and our definitions, so that we can create these new definitions. We can have these create these new neural pathways. So from that perspective, one of the things that my mentor talked about and his mentor talked about, that the only difference between success and failure is the difference is how we think about things. That's it. That's the only thing that makes the difference between if we're going to be successful, and I'm air quoting that one, or not. And on success, of course, defined by our own selves. And so and what's controlling that is our values, our beliefs, and our habits. And so one of the things that we can do to start to change this is to have a very, very clear mental image of what we want our life to look like in all areas of our life. And I think one of the challenges that we have is the older that we get is it's more difficult to hold steadfast to the image of what we desire versus the image of what we're actually experiencing right now. And so if we can learn how to re-imprint, basically, right, we're reconditioning. So we're deconditioning one and reconditioning it in another. And this is where the images are important. So if you've ever heard of people doing vision boards, part of the benefit of doing a vision board is it creates an image. And there's lots of different ways to do to do vision boards. There's lots of scientific data out there about the importance of doing a vision board. And then what we can do with this as we're working through it, I'll use that word, language, we're looking through what the desires that we want, we can go and find pictures, right, of what that would represent. Now, in the past, some of the things that I've done is just basically a bubble, like a word bubble, like, right, and put the word bubble in and then put what the desired outcome is, and then create the image in my own mind, versus looking at an image that I maybe found as an example in a magazine. That's what we used to do in the 80s and 90s, or on the internet. And sometimes, though, the word thought or the thought bubble won't be enough, because we can't see we don't have a clear vision. And it's the clear vision that's so important. And the more we can involve our five senses, the better. Right. So if we can bring in all five senses to what would it feel like? What would it taste like? What would it smell like? And all of those things. And especially if it's something that you've never created a manifest of before. Before the call, I was just after my meditation, I went in and looked at Costa Rica real estate. Right, I have an area, I think an idea of an areas that I want to live in, and so I was just kind of looking at different images. And what I noticed was I had a lot of yeah buts at looking at the images. And so I know that my work is to work on the yeah buts. So for example, I was looking at this beautiful 3-bedroom home and with a pool, because every place in Costa Rica has a pool. And what came to me was, yeah, but who's going to take care of the pool? Right. So, and it's practical, and that's true. And then I was reminded that there are companies, right, that take care of the pool, so that I won't have to learn how to take care of a pool, because I really don't want to take care of a pool. I want to take advantage of having a pool. I don't necessarily, want to do all the maintenance of the pool. It's the same thing with lawn care. So then here's the challenge: the practicality of my mind, right? Like, so like my conscious thoughts, my awareness of my strengths and my weaknesses, that can actually be a hindrance to creating the image, or creating, I'll use the word fantasy, of what I desire. And so it's important we don't ignore the yeah buts, but we go in and think about, well, what would that look like? So wouldn't it be cool if, that's when I use that sentence lots. Wouldn't that be cool if? Wouldn't that be cool if I could have a 3-bedroom home and I had someone to take care of the lawn? Wouldn't that be cool if, and da da da. And so there's a work around, and I'll use that word, a work around. And it's important that we take care of the yeah buts. Right? The yeah buts are the values, the beliefs, and the habits, right? That's where the yeah but comes from. And so as we start to picture this, what we want, the one thing we need to remember is the subconscious mind inherently does not want us to change unless there's an imminent threat to our life, right? And so this is why change is difficult, can be a challenge. The cool thing is, though, when it's like a tipping point, once you get past that tipping point, then all of a sudden things make a huge difference. Right? It really does. Get to this tipping point, and then things really, really start to unfold. And so one of the things, so we could talk, well, let's go back to this image of the Dr. Thurman Fleet stick man. And so there's a constant, just imagine kind of like maybe a lightning bolt for the image, or like waves coming towards it. And so this wave of energy is pure, unadulterated energy, and it flows to and through us. It has the information and the knowledge in the universe wrapped it up in it and accessible at every moment of every day. So whether we call that God, we call that spirit, or we call that energy, we have access to this information every single day. So in other words, we talked about this in universal law, there's a formless substance that lives in the ethers, right? And it comes through energy, and we change it into form through our images, through our visualization, through our imagination. But all of the information is out there. It's accessible to everyone at all times. And so have you ever noticed that sometimes you'll get a really, really cool idea?
Oh, yeah, because I was getting coffee.
May or may not have taken advantage of it, and then someone else has done it. And that's because, all the information is out there at the same time. So not just one person receives the download to do something. There's more than one person that receives the download. So if we also remember that spirit is totally deductive in nature, meaning that even though it has all this potential and all the knowledge, it requires us to choose how it's going to be expressed, right? So we are receiving, we are receivers, and we're receiving energy, we're receiving knowledge, we're receiving abundance, we're receiving prosperity, we're receiving everything that we want every single day. So we talk about the frequency, right? We are a frequency finder. We also emit a frequency. We also receive a frequency. And so because it's spirit is deductive in nature, we need to make the decision. So what are you choosing to receive? And so this is where the universal law of receiving is so important. What are you willing to receive? What are you open to receiving? And what are you choosing to receive? Are you choosing to receive ease and flow as your natural state of being? Or are you choosing to receive that life is really, really fucking hard, right? And everything happens and there's all of this, that portion. So as the energy moves into our conscious mind, we can then create this brand new image, any image we want with that energy. And so this is the challenge, right? Holding on to creating the image and holding on to that image despite your experience right now. What you're experiencing right now is based on your past values, your past belief systems, right? Your past thoughts. So if you want to create something new, then you need to create, right, new beliefs, new values, new habits. And part of the creation of that is holding fast the image of what it is that you desire. One of the challenges I find, I'll go actually into weight loss, and it was kind of like, oh, I wish I knew this when I had the curves, right? This information, which is a lot of times when we would visualize, we would in our weight loss classes, we would have women visualize like what they wanted their health to look like, what they wanted their bodies to look like. And what I realized the other day was so many people, and this is my aha moment for myself, think about the body they had in their past. And so they bring that body to their present and thinking, this is the body that I want to create. But that past body is full of past memories, past conditions, right? Past conditioning, past habits. And so it's not about bringing a past body or past business, right, into the present, but what does you want your present and future, right? So what does your future body want from you? What does your future business want from you? What does your future you in a relationship want from you? What does it want you to think about, to imagine, to visualize, to create? What thoughts, right? It's the frequency of the thoughts that it would want you to have, right? So if we think about, if we're building a 5-figure business, 6-figure business, 7-figure business, right? In order to do that our businesses are vibrating, let's say that they're desiring that and they're vibrating at a certain level. Well, we the human being who's taking inspired action must also be vibrating at that level. So where's the shift that is required? What's the new thoughts? So whether that's the body, whether that's relationship, it doesn't really matter. The process is the same, right? And so the other piece with regards to this is to remember that if you're not imagining it, it's because it's not meant for you. And then that's not a bad thing, but we're only given the opportunity to imagine and visualize the possibilities of what we want. Right? So it's kind of, God would never want you to want something, or desire to desire something that you didn't have the possibility of creating. And so the only thing stopping you is you. Now that's cliche, I know, and it's so true. The only thing stopping you is you, right? And so, and I think the biggest piece of this is we have a desire of a life, let's say of a lifestyle that we want, or a life that we desire. And if you're trying to direct the universe that the path to that life, if you're trying to direct it as to how that path unfolds, that there'll be so much pain for you. I can't word it any other way. If you try to manipulate the path to your life, right? Like the steps, like the step 1, step 2, step 3, and you're trying to direct the how to, the steps, that's where the pain is. This is where the surrender comes. Think about the desired outcome and ask for what's the next step. What's the desired outcome? And then what's the next step? And that's in every aspect of your life, right? What's the desired outcome? What's that first next step? And then what's the next step? And then what's the next step? And the more you resist that, the more that you try to control the day, right? That's where the pain is. So we have these desires. The desire is only there because we're meant to have it. And so it's about letting go of what no longer serves you, and then being open to the next possibility, right? Be open to the next possibility. So once you've created a clear image, the thing that you want, and learn to hold that image with your will, and change it with the habitual habits that you do on a daily basis, then as the universal laws start to work with you, right? You change yourself, and you are the causation for the results that you want. So your thinking is the cause, right? Our actions are the cause, our values are the cause, the beliefs are the cause, right? And so if we want a different effect, we must change the way that we act, behave, think, right? Our beliefs, our values. One might say attitude. We might need to change our attitude. Right? And the most difficult thing of this is we might not see what's stopping us. You might not see, right? You might not be open to hearing, or you might not see it. I was sharing my story on the summit, how when I realized that it was my mentor, and I said to him, I just don't know what to do. As I was literally at my wit's end. And I said, I just don't know what beliefs are holding me back. I don't know what values are holding me back. I don't know what habits are holding me back. And he said, you're so, actually said, that's bullshit. He said, you're so full of shit, Ranchelle. He was good for me in one sense, because he was like very like stern, which I resisted. I resisted stern. And I said to him, no, I really don't know. And he said, okay, if you really don't know, he said, then ask your kids, ask your ex-husband. And so I was like, what? And I did. I phoned up my ex-husband, and I asked him to be open and honest with me, that I was trying to change, I was trying to transform, and I couldn't see the things that were stopping me. And I remember texting him and asking him that I need to have a conversation because of what I was trying to do, and he needed honest feedback. And he said to me, I don't know if I want to do that. He said, that seems really dangerous, Ranchelle. And I said, well, we're not even married. It's not like, what am I going to do? And he said, you can be really unkind. And I was stunned, because I consider myself to be one of the kindest people out there. And I said, okay, well, that was make note of that. And so I said to him, I appreciate it. I I understand. And could you please do this for me? And then I did it with the kids as well, and asked them to be radically honest with me. And both of my kids asked me if I was sure, if I really wanted to hear their thoughts. So I knew that there was something there, right? And the feedback was awesome. It was hard to hear from my children, and with an open mind, and hear from my parents. I asked my mom and dad the same thing, and my ex-husband. And they all pretty much said the same thing, which is right, which is if I want something, I want something, and I really don't give a shit what anyone else wants, and I can just mow people over. That if things don't go my way, I'm kind of a bitch. That was the other, that's not their words, that was my interpretation. What Jacob said to me probably was the most painful, and because he was the most honest, and he just said, Mom, if you don't get your way, and he says, I'll give you an example. You want me to behave a certain way and I want to do something. And he said, and I don't behave the way that you do. He says, you just shut down. You just get so cold. You withdraw your energy. He said, I know you're not withdrawing your love. He says, but you just get really, really cold and silent. And he said, you might as well just cut my heart out. You might as well just stab me with a million times. He says, because he said, it would be so much easier if you just yelled at me. And he says, but you don't. He says, you don't yell. He says, you just get cold. You just withdraw and get cold. And it was like so hard to hear. And I'm sharing this because for me, had I not asked for the feedback, I would not have known the areas that I need to work on, right? The areas of staying open-hearted when I wasn't getting my own way, being awareness. That's when I realized I was really manipulative. So that's happened many years ago, right? And so being aware that I was super manipulative, and especially when I wanted my own way. And there's benefits, my mom and dad used to say it was a dog with a bone, right? Which is I'm resourceful and resilient. And then there's but I won't let shit go. If I want something, I won't let it go, and to the detriment of others. And so I'm not as the same, but I think there's parts of me that are still like that. But that's the feedback that I received. And I was able to, so the point of the story is I was able to go in and look at what behaviors needed to be changed. So that's how I started. What behaviors need to be changed? And because I know that without changing the values, looking at the value or the belief and the habits, that change of behavior would be temporary. Right. And so it was understanding what those were so that I could change to create new beliefs and to look at the values behind that. And that can be tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, oh, it was so easy. And the only tough part of it was the consistency that was required for me to hold fast to the image that I wanted. Right. And so when we think about things like prosperity or abundance, within our businesses or in our life, everything will start with this image. It begins with the state of mind. Is it The Science of Getting Rich or the Think and Grow Rich? I think it's Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. He says riches begin with a state of mind, with a definiteness of purpose, and with little or no hard work, right? And always starts with this. It always starts with this. And so if it's difficult for you to imagine what your life could look like because you're bringing in the past and the memories, if it's difficult for you to take action, to take inspired action, then I would encourage you to just pause for the moment and sit and think about what habits do you have? What values, what beliefs do you have that possibly are holding you back, right? And so, and then make those changes, because what do you have to lose, right? Just a different outcome, right? Or a new outcome that you're wanting, right? So I hope that makes sense. I know I revisited the same thing over and over again in different ways. It's just I've been guided. It's just so important to start with that that visualization, that image. And there's great tools out there if you're wanting to do a vision board, which is always so much fun to do. You can do it on Pinterest, or you can do it on paper. You can do it in thought bubbles. Please don't dismiss the simplicity of the vision board. I mean, I know it was, I remember in the 80s and 90s, that was when it first came out. And then there's people that continue to do it, all the time. Continue to do all the time. And it makes such a huge difference. I know I usually have mine up here. That's why I looked over there. When I have mine up, it reminds me to stay focused on on the vision. And I know that if I don't have one, my mind will meander a little bit. And again, there's nothing wrong, right? There's no right or wrong, but there certainly is a purpose to it. So, all right, everyone, thank you so much. Mwah. Big hugs. Happy Tuesday, and we'll see you tomorrow.